thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah. Good morning, guys. That's right. It is Friday, December 6th, you guys. Man, oh man, oh man. Almost a week down in December. And today is National Microwave Oven Day, you guys. What do you have to say about that? Microwave ovens. I think they should all just be banned from houses, but get a toaster oven.
Not a fan of the microwave myself.
Yeah, neither you. Yeah, I'm with you, Jesse. What do you think about microwaves, Dr. Mark? There? You with us? You're on mute. You're on
muted.
Mute. You're on
He's
mute, Dr.
muted.
Mark.
He is talking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just another way to heat up water, that's all.
Just another way to heat up water. Fair enough. Well, Dr. Mark, you'll like this since you're getting ready to go back to the East Coast. It's also Mitten Tree Day today.
Boy.
Yeah, because, baby, it's cold outside. Let's see. It's also National Bartender Day today, you guys.
Oh yeah, celebrate your bartender.
Yeah, shout out to bartenders. My buddy, since you're in Vegas, Dr. Mark, you'll appreciate this. My buddy Christian, I want to send a shout out to Christian. He is actually Steve Wynn's personal bartender. Shout out to everyone over there at the Wynn for MJ Biz this week. It's also National Gazpacho Day. Did I say that right, Dr. Mark?
Gazpacho
Day. Mm-hmm. It's also St. Nicholas Day. And
Santa Claus Day. I thought that's on the 25th.
No. Today is National St. Nicholas Day. It didn't say
like legitimate. The Saint Nicholas.
Yeah, I believe so. That would be my guess as well. And shout out to everyone that's an oil producer because it's also National Miners Day. Shout out to everyone mining those THCA diamonds out there. Yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So thank you to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And man, kicking it off today. Dr. Mark, you want to kick it off today? You have to leave a little early today, right? Because you got your flight.
Yeah,
you got to
get on a plane to fly back home. So appreciate it, Jason.
Yeah, most definitely. We are going to roll into Dr. Mark. He's a chemist. He finds THC molecules that we never knew about. On top of all of that, he also is out in Vegas for MJ Biz and has to fly back to the freezing cold Arctic blast of Vermont. That's right. It is none other than Dr. Mark Scialdone.
Oh, thank you, Jason. Yeah. So quick report on BizCon. So I'm telling you, if it's anything that was overrepresented at BizCon, it was pre-rolls. It was the pre-roll BizCon this year. There were pre-roll machines, people serving the pre-roll market like I've never, ever seen before. I mean, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, that's when the automation crept in. So you saw like a lot of automated joint fillers and packaging machines that weigh out precisely an eighth and put into a pouch, and you can do 25 every minute, so package those mids to get them out there on the shelves.
Dr. Mark.
Dr.
Mark, what's your X handle?
What's my X handle?
Yeah.
I'm not really active on that platform. Let's see.
We understand that. I'm just trying.
I think
find you.
I think it's the one word Play Ripple.
Play Ripple. Yes, that sounds all right. Perfect.
There you go.
Yes. Ripple.
So every 3 or 4 booths had something to do with pre-rolls. So pre-rolls is I guess a big market, and we all know that pre-rolls today are basically hemp or trim, floor scrapings, if you will, plus THC isolate. That's basically what the pre-roll market is today. BizCon, it was great. The Abstracts folks were there. They gave a couple great talks. Went to a talk yesterday on the hemp-derived business of selling beverages. So beverages have really, really taken off. That hemp-derived D9 is finding its way into a lot of different products. And overall, I would say that there were less participants. I've been to, this is about 4 or 5 for me, I can't remember. I think there were less participants this year, Jason, and that might be because of people are feeling it in the purse a little more, and like you said, Vegas is an expensive trip.
Well, you know what, Dr. Mark, too, they switched up their whole thing of how they did events. Like, it kind of reminded me like how when High Time switched their events, because they had different people from the cannabis community create these different areas, and then they were responsible for selling all the booth space to those vendors and whatnot. And so that, to me, I think that was a big change with MJ Biz, because it was like MJ Biz really isn't throwing the event. They're basically subcontracting people from the cannabis community, leaders in the cannabis community, to foster these different experiences within MJ Biz, and they're just kind of like being the carnival, and everyone else has their own little ringleader area kind of thing.
Well, what's amazing to me, Jason, is like these large equipment manufacturers like that do automated production, packaging, and joint filling and all that. Boy, they bring in a really big, impressive setup. Some of these are multiple storied setups. You have things that have hoppers that are way up here that are basically filling gummies way down here. And so, there's definitely a lot of expense associated. People handing out swag. Yesterday, as you were leaving, you were approached by 10 different people trying to give away their swag that they brought. So bags and joint holders and all kinds of different things. But just walking the floor yesterday, what I can tell you, and you guys probably already know, is that Abstracts is probably the hottest thing going on in the cannabis industry today. Those guys are just absolutely crushing it. They had a sensory panel where you could smell the different terpenes and the different flavorants that they basically formulate into these products. And Ian and TJ and that group are really, in my opinion, scientifically, are the best thing going on in cannabis. Everything else was just containers and rolling papers. And,
Here's the real question, Dr. Mark. Here's the real question everyone wants to know. While you're at MJ Biz, did you find any hot mother liquors out there?
Hot mothers. I don't know about mother liquors. But, they say liquor is quicker, right? But you got a bowler in the rear, right?
Yeah, that's right. Liquor is quicker, yes.
I think that the problem, what I see again is like, so when Mike Tyson came in yesterday, he had this whole entourage of people, and it seemed like...
I saw this. I saw this when he went to the Advanced Nutrients booth. Yeah.
Right. He went to Advanced Nutrients, and there was this huge crowd that just kind of swarmed. And you know what my feeling is. If you need a celebrity to sell your cannabis, find better cannabis. But it's kind of like a,
So those were not... Those were not...
picture with Mike Tyson.
Those were not like paid protesters kind of thing. Paid entourage. That was not staged. Okay. All right.
But he had he walked right in front of us, and there was probably an entourage of like 50 people all around him trying to selfie out with him and trying to get pictures with the champ. And yeah, people talking to him like they're his best friend. But here, let me move on to my story because I got to jump onto a flight. Jason, I appreciate you moving me up in the queue today.
Yes.
So my story today comes from Drug Development Research, and it's called Improving the Biopharmaceutical Properties of Cannabinoids in Glioblastoma Multiforme Therapy with Nanotechnology, a Drug Delivery Perspective. And this is something I believe in wholeheartedly, Jason, so I thank you for pointing me this article. So I'll just read the abstract. Glioblastoma multiforme, if you don't know what that is, it's a very aggressive form of brain cancer. In fact, it's the brain cancer that Joe Biden's son, Beau Biden, died from. And this is the kind of cancer often that by the time you find out, it's often too late because it's just very, very aggressive and grows very quick. I'm sure Dr. T would agree. So glioblastoma multiforme, or GBM, is the most prevalent brain tumor in adults and is known for its rapid proliferation and infiltrative nature. Current therapeutic strategies, including surgical resection, followed by radio and chemotherapy. But still, they are hindered by GBM's biological characteristics and the physical chemical properties of chemotherapeutic drugs, leading to limited and poor prognosis. Cannabinoids have emerged as an anti-GBM agent, exhibiting anti-angiogenic, meaning that it inhibits the formation of new blood vessels that feed the tumor, anti-metastatic, which means that it keeps the tumors from metastasizing elsewhere in different tissues in the body, and anti-proliferative. So it just inhibits its proliferation, meaning that it just basically kills the cancer. And that's because cannabinoids are known to promote something called apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. However, their hydrophobicity and poor oral bioavailability pose significant challenges for the clinical applications. So we know how hydrophobic cannabinoids are, right? You ever try cleaning your bong out with water? It doesn't work too well, right? So not very water soluble, these cannabinoids are. So they're very hydrophobic, or what's often termed as hydrophilic, meaning that hydrophobic as opposed to being hydrophilic, which is something that likes water. The study evaluates the potential of nanocarriers in enhancing the solubility and target delivery of cannabinoids for GBM. You know, this is super exciting to me because my molecule, hexahydrocannabinolic acid, and the hydrogenated cannabinoids we tested in a glioblastoma multiforme model in mice showed that the mice had, in the control group, some of the mice actually succumbed to the tumors, so actually died from the tumors. In the group that were fed with cannabinoids, tumors were smaller, and the groups that were fed with the hydrogenated cannabinoids, the tumors were even smaller. So we did a little bit of work in this area, but as this review recognizes, these things are very hydrophobic, so they're difficult to get into water. So the idea about using a nanocarrier is kind of like a Trojan horse, right? So the nanocarrier would basically carry the cannabinoids across the blood-brain barrier and then bloom on the other side of the blood-brain barrier, so the particle would release its contents, and that way you can basically deliver these across the blood-brain barrier, which is a very hydrophobic kind of gateway. Not everything that's in the blood makes it into the brain, and that's a protective mechanism that's in the body to make sure that you don't get bad stuff in the brain. So the innovative combination of nanotechnology with cannabinoid-based treatments offers a promising strategy to improve therapeutic outcomes. We address the application of nanocarriers to deliver cannabinoids, which can enhance passage across the blood-brain barrier, again, like the Trojan horse, getting across the barrier. And studies demonstrated the potential of nanocarriers in improving the solubility, stability, and controlled release. That's a very important thing because as the particle blooms, there's a period in which you're releasing this kind of like in a slow release form, so it impacts something called the pharmacokinetics, which is the profile of the drug and how long it's available to basically do its action. So studies demonstrate the potentials of nanocarrier. Oh, I just read that. Cannabinoids can exert their anti-tumor effects, including induction of apoptosis, which I previously mentioned, through ceramide and P8 regulated pathways. These are just biochemical pathways in the brain that cannabinoids act on, including immune responses. So these are very important biochemical pathways that are what the body's immune cells are sort of tuned to. The evidence found in this study supports potential of cannabinoid-based nanotechnologies in GBM therapeutic regimens as a strategy to enhance efficacy in patient outcomes. And this is just a review paper that reminds me of a paper that I read last year from 2023 that was entitled Exploring the Potential of Cannabinoid Nanodelivery Systems for Central Nervous System Orders, or CNS orders. So this is not just for glioblastoma multiforme, but potentially for traumatic brain injury like concussion, and even neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So yeah, very exciting research going on in this field, and I think very practical applications. Dr. T, it's always wonderful to say that, cannabinoids can do this, cannabinoids can do that, but really, when you're talking about cancer, sometimes you need a multi-pronged approach, and cannabinoids alone won't do it, or chemotherapy alone won't do it. But certainly, I think this kind of work here demonstrates that you can use sort of advances in nanocarriers and drug formulation to enhance the activity of cannabinoids, because we all know that they're not very bioavailable because they're not water soluble. But Dr. T, what do you think about this type of work in terms of developing a therapeutic treatment for CNS disorders, in particular GBM?
Well, thanks, Mark. This is great information. It's been around for a while. That's why it's a review. They're looking at all the studies, and many people use nanoemulsification now in the cannabis space. Yeah, that's the big problem with edibles, is their unpredictability, because they don't absorb through your gut very well, because they're fats, and our cells are mostly water. So fat oil doesn't mix with water very well. And so, yeah, we have to do things like emulsification to make the medicine absorb better for whatever condition, whether this is GBM or this is arthritis or whatever you're using cannabis for. This is a good technique to make bioavailability similar. Interestingly, the companies in the cannabis space that are using this all the time are the beverage companies. They have, because they're putting the cannabinoids in water, they have to nano-emulsify them so that they stay in the water. And so, there's a mix of the adult use recreational world sort of championing technology that could also be helpful in the medical cannabis world.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because at the panel discussion yesterday at BizCon around the hemp-derived beverages, I asked Diana Eberlein, who's the one of the vice presidents at Source. Source is one of the companies that's providing the nanoemulsification for these drinks. And I specifically asked her, does size matter, From the audience. But the point is what, and I think she brought up a really interesting point, Dr. T, which is that nanoparticles in general are somewhat of a bastard child with the FDA. That there's a whole different set of regulations if you're talking about a nanoparticle. She seemed to think that micro is better than nano. So micro is just the next sort of size up from nano. And so a microemulsion could still, be used in a cannabis beverage. And she claims to think that, again, microemulsions have better onset of activity than the nanoemulsions. But
Really?
yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think her answer is a little based on a misconception, which is that there's things like inorganic mineral nanoparticles, and those can completely get through cell walls and do completely different things than much larger particles. But a nanoemulsion is not really a particle. It is a particle in that it's an emulsified oil droplet that's just down to a very small scale. But the particle itself is defined by the lipid water interface, which immediately is denatured when it gets into fatty tissue. So I don't think it's the particle concern that she rose with the FDA, but I think it's an interesting perspective. So I don't know if people, again, in the recreational space want to say nano. They probably just want to say a emulsified product, and does size really matter? It perhaps does, but it could be a hot button issue to regulate.
I bet. So is nano smaller than micro, or is micro smaller than nano?
Yes. Nano is the next size down from micro, and then you have pico.
Got it.
So
Got it.
And then above micro is milli. And then, so you think of it like a milligram, a microgram, and a nanogram. Those are different by 3 decimal points.
Got it. I understand that. I understand decimal points very well, especially from scales.
But you get an A in today's chemistry class.
I love this, man. I love this. I get an A. Look at this, you guys, man. Put my name on the happy side of the chalkboard today. Any thought, Jenny Beth? You have anything you want to say on this?
This guy. Size matters.
Size matters. Jenny says size matters. Fair enough. And on that, we are going to roll into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back. I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that, they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi. And we are back. We're back, Rico. We're gonna go into you, bro, the dope dad himself.
Yeah,
Mr. Rico Lamitte.
Oh, that's all I get today. I like that, Jason.
You like that? You like that? You like that?
Yeah. I like that short, sweet, to the point.
Short, sweet, to the point. The dope dad himself, the man who has a master plan today. That's right, because it's Friday. You know what I'm saying? We're that much closer to the weekend.
Thanks for giving me more of what I like, Jason.
That's a story of my life, bro. Giving everybody what they like.
Just a little bit, Rico.
Nano emulsified intro. I can dig it.
Oh, here we go, Rico. Here's what you really want, bro. I already know it.
I trust. I'm trusting the process.
Can't happens only on stage. Can you hear it at all?
It's all good. It's nano emulsified.
There's a nano applause
there.
Stop it, bro. This shit is loud, bro. You should. I hear it in my ears.
Digging it. All right, so gonna talk a little bit about Minnesota today. So last August, Minnesota became the nation's 23rd state to legalize adult use cannabis, and since then, regulators have taken a more measured approach on the official state rollout, becoming the first legalized. I'm showing that the stream ended there. Still on? We still good?
You're on.
Yeah.
You're on, bro. We're going. Yeah. Don't worry about all of that.
All right. Since then, regulators have taken a more measured approach on the official rollout, becoming the first legalized state that we've seen acting like they learned something, watching the others fail. While we've yet to see any measurable results, it seems like the state OCM's temperance trickled down to a municipal level, with several Twin Cities That's right, y'all. We are back like we left something.
Yes.
And we're just going to pick the story up from the top there. So last August, Minnesota became the nation's 23rd state to legalize adult use cannabis. Since then, regulators have taken a more measured approach on the official rollout, becoming the first legalized state that we have seen acting like they learned something watching the failures of others. While we've yet to see any measurable results, it seems like the state OCM's temperance trickled down to a municipal level, with several Twin Cities suburbs choosing to preemptively adopt new odor ordinances ahead of the state's recreational cannabis market launch. According to Minnesota Star Tribune's Eva Hershowitz, city councils in Hastings, Cottage Grove, and Stillwater all approved odor ordinances this week, barring property owners from emitting smells deemed quote-unquote offensive and requiring them to mitigate problems with city officials' help. The regulations apply broadly to all entities, not just cannabis businesses, but they are part of a broader cannabis-related guideline setting covering zoning and permitting. The ordinances aim to balance the economic benefits of the cannabis industry with residents' concerns about quality of life. Complaints about odors can trigger enforcement measures, including odor testing with tools like the Nasal Ranger, a device designed to measure smell intensity. Persistent violators may face fines up to $10,000. Minnesota industry advocates have raised concerns about the subjective nature of malodorous complaints, suggesting that the rules might lead to legal changes. While some cannabis-related facilities like cultivation centers are more likely to generate odors, others, such as dispensaries, are less affected. Examples from Cottage Grove actually demonstrated that air purifying measures can effectively manage odors. Sounds like you got some clients to hit up out there, Nick Bradley.
Nick better be happy he tuned in today for all this.
Right. However, questions remain about the applications of these rules to other odor sources, such as farming and natural phenomena. You know that I'm usually not a fan of rules and regulations. Sorry, that's I still got that defensive back football mindset and old habits die hard. I just do not like regulations, don't like rules, and the referees are always playing for the other team. But I'm digging the way that Minnesota has been rolling things out so far. Preventative legislation based on real-life observations of potential pitfalls with several carve-outs for community-based alterations in the future. Kind of sounds like how the U.S. Constitution is supposed to work, but I ain't going there today. Let's just say that I am a fan of Minnesota and how they have handled things with their nascent industry so far, keeping citizen concerns at their core. And it's radically different than the fear-mongering that we've seen in the past, like Meatball Ron throwing out a bunch of bullshit hypotheticals to scare voters away. But I'm interested in hearing everybody else's thoughts. These preemptive yet amendable rules that these folks are doing to keep people happy. I think they're not. Offending people right off the bat, and they're giving them the option, like, "Yo, if the smell ain't that bad, we can change this down the line." You guys think?
I mean, I don't understand why people all get their panties in a tuffle over the smell of cannabis. I mean,
because it's something they're not used to.
They need to get used to it. I mean, I've been smoking in the streets for a long time, and there's lots of people that weren't with it, but now they are with it, and so it just takes just is what it is. I mean, Jenny saw some of the notes I used to get on my door from some of my old units from my neighbors that would just hate on me about smoking in my house. And,
yeah, people still
they were
aren't
very
with it,
colorful. They were very colorful.
And, no matter the fact that we're fine with it doesn't mean that everybody else has to be fine with it, right? So I mean, I think it's about being respectful and being considerate.
See, this is my thing. I don't buy into that into that BS, okay? Because there's a lot of offensive smells that I smell in people's food and whatnot, and I don't get the right to complain about their cooking. So why
you have every right to complain, but they're getting ahead of the curve. They've seen how other states have handled this shit, and the communities are all up in arms, like, oh, the smell, blah 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 blah. They're giving them control up front, and they're like, yo, there's a community thing. We've seen how other states have faltered, and we're giving you guys a carve out. If it's not an issue, maybe we can ease up these regulations later on. And they said that right out the gate. I think it's masterful politics right off the bat.
I was
Well, there's also an underlying stigma, right? That people have the misconception that if they smell cannabis aroma, that they might be affected by that aroma. And
Right.
I think we haven't done a good enough job explaining to them that that doesn't occur. And so that myth continues.
Mm-hmm. That's fair too, Doc. That's fair, very fair point right there. Jesse, what do you think about the smell of weed?
I mean, I understand that people, smell things and just don't like them, or as Dr. Talleyrand just said, they think they're getting high when there's no
That's
possible
total
way
bullshit.
that's happening.
Yeah, that's
But
fucking
that
ridiculous.
just goes back to reefer madness and what we've been dealing with for 100 years. I mean,
It's like people that think that
tells the
contact
same
highs.
old story. Yeah, it just tells the same old story that we have 100 years of propaganda that we're fighting, and it's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's good. I think it softens the blow, right? Yeah, you're definitely going to have some naysayers and a bunch of prohibitionists coming out there. Like, oh, the smell is killing me. You got Ron DeSantis down there saying like you're gonna smell it absolutely everywhere. Everybody's gonna be catching contact highs. They're getting ahead of that, and they already muted that bullshit backlash right there. So
I think anyone that's complaining about the smell of weed is just totally ridiculous. It's totally a meritless complaint, in my opinion.
yeah, you're entitled to that, and they're entitled to theirs, right?
Yeah, they just happen to be wrong. Like I said, they're that's the thing. They can be wrong all that they want. You know what I mean? This is America.
So if opinions are like assholes, some assholes are wrong, is what you're saying?
Yeah, but mine's clean.
Wet ones for the win.
Yeah. Oh man, Rico, these people, man, tripping out about the smell of weed, whatever. These people need to.
I think this is the right way to go about cannabis legislation. I think it's the right way to go about legislation, period. Instead of hitting some people with some radical shit that they is going to be polarizing for them, give them a carve out down the line. Like, yo, this is where we're going. This is what the voters said we're going to be doing going forward. So we're going to go forward with it. However, Chads, Karens out there, you're going to say something before you even say that. Yeah, yo, we're going to toe into this and we're going to loosen it up even more later on if it's okay with people.
Mm-hmm. They need to just toughen up, these people. They need to just toughen up and grow a pair.
That's how you get all these political arguments and shit, man. That's why we got people at each other's throats right now. They try to come all like this is all that matters. And your opinion doesn't matter at all. Like, how's that work?
If you walked the streets of New York
Exactly
15 years ago, you would smell diesel exhaust,
Yep.
urine,
That's my point.
pretzels, and chestnuts.
Mhm.
Now, when you walk the streets of Manhattan, it is under a permanent cloud of weed smoke.
Hold on, don't forget
block
about all
in
the
Manhattan
homeless
smells
piss
like
and
weed.
shit all over the place too, Dr. Mark.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And shell casings too in New York City now.
That's Chicago, Rico.
No, that is New York City.
Do cities ever smell good? There's nothing in a city. If you're on the street in a city, there's no good smells.
I mean, have you ever been in Colorado? Jenny, you remember being in Colorado and you passed the Purina dog food factory? Oh my God, that's like the worst smell ever.
That's the worst.
They're
in
not.
Colorado.
That's not the worst smell. The worst smell is
Jesse,
going
what-
up the 5 and smelling all the pig shit.
No, I think the Purina factory is worse than Harris Ranch.
No,
Is
Harris
that
Ranch,
horse-
you got to
is
turn your
that horse, Jenny
AC
Beth?
off going through
I
Harris
think there's
Ranch.
people in Wisconsin that would beg to differ when they drive back by the head cheese factory every day and smell the smell of boiling brain fat.
I have not driven by a cheese factory in Wisconsin, Jesse. So maybe
head cheese.
cheese.
Head cheese, bro.
The head cheese.
Very different thing.
Is
than
that the ones that
cheese.
they wear on their head?
Google it.
Just Google head cheese, bro. You'll understand. And there is a town where head cheese is specifically made, and there is a factory, and people do have to drive by it. And apparently, this is anecdotal. I've never actually driven by it, but apparently, it is actually the worst smell ever.
Interesting.
Jesse, this is. Apologize preemptively if this.
Oh
I
God,
know you
here
don't
we
take
go.
offense because you're very similar to me. You're not very
boy.
PC either.
Here we
but
go.
but I'm asking like from these Anglo nations and shit, right? It's like these Anglo-European nations. Like, what the fuck is that with some of the shit some of these dishes that you guys make? Like the blood sausage. Just like, what the fuck that do? This is nasty.
Dude, we lived in winter where you had like roots and jerky and dried blood, or like a jar of blood that you held onto, and in February, when the ground had been covered with snow for 3 months already, and you're starving, you pull out that jar of blood, man, or actually probably a mud pot. You know what I mean? You eat that shit.
Fair enough. We're gonna keep this thing rolling while we're talking about blood and stuff and all this. We're gonna roll right into the doctor himself, Dr. Gene Talleyrand. He's the founder of CESC and of Medican, where you can get all of your cannabis doctor recommendations. He has been writing recommendations so long that he probably even wrote your parents' recommendation as well. That's right. Here to come up and to give us some medical knowledge is none other than Dr. Gene Talleyrand.
Thank you, Jason. Happy Friday, everyone. Let's see here. My story today is from Normal Study. Arthritis patients report substantial improvements following cannabis use. So rheumatoid and psoriatic arthritis are autoimmune disorders that progressively destroy joints, causing chronic and often debilitating pain, which drastically impacts quality of life. Osteoarthritis is more common in older patients, whereas rheumatoid and psoriatic arthritis begin earlier in life. Approximately 1.3 million people with rheumatoid arthritis and 500,000 people with psoriatic arthritis are in the U.S. These patients suffer sooner and longer. Novel pharmaceutical drugs have been developed for autoimmune arthritis, yet it's challenging to fully control the complex pain experience, leading patients to seek alternative treatments. In a collaborative effort, scientists at the University of Central Florida College of Medicine, the University of Alabama School of Medicine, and the University of Tennessee Health Science Center conducted a cross-sectional study of patients visiting an outpatient rheumatology clinic in Orlando, Florida, from October 2019 to March 2020. 247 patients with rheumatoid arthritis and 44 patients with psoriatic arthritis completed a survey of specific questions regarding the use of cannabinoids, their forms, sources, methods, side effects, and perceived efficacy. 17% of rheumatoid patients and 12% of psoriatic patients were using cannabinoids. Most of the rheumatoid patients inhaled, while most of the psoriatic patients used topical. These patients noted a substantial decrease in pain, improvements in joint stiffness, fatigue, and swelling with cannabinoid use. The survey was taken voluntarily and results were anonymous. Patients were given an iPad at the clinic and directed to a room where they completed the survey. They were asked to recall their pain before and after cannabinoid use. Most patients reported purchasing cannabinoids from a dispensary and consuming less than 200 milligrams per day. They were not asked to make a distinction between consuming THC and CBD. Their concerns regarding the use of cannabinoids were in order of importance: side effects, cost, safety, addiction, and hassle. This study has many limitations. Two major ones are the lack of a control group and that patients were asked to recall the effects of cannabis. The authors concluded, our findings contribute to the growing literature on cannabinoid therapy for arthritis symptoms, emphasizing the need for continued research to optimize treatment strategies for affected individuals. So I think this study is lame. Why? Because it's just saying the same thing. Because of Schedule I restrictions, this study is lame. The scientists were not able to put their hands on the products, which is why patients had to recall what they used. We don't know if the patients were smoking type 1, type 2, or type 3 cannabis. Were they dabbing or vape cartridges or using vape cartridges? Is there a terpene profile that's more effective than others? Rather than learn more specifically what helps, science keeps running in place and having to conclude that we need more study. When California was voting for adult use, I warned folks that patients would be forgotten, but it was more important for people to have their weed than to further the medical use paradigm. Today, we regret passing adult use Prop 64 in California and patients continue to suffer from the lack of good study. Well, we're doing it again with Schedule 3 versus descheduling. People would rather prevent scientists from studying cannabis than to take an incremental step with Schedule 3. Shame on those who are afraid of losing access to their weed, so they choose to let patients suffer from the lack of study. So this lame study is not the scientist's fault. It's the fault of those who can only think for themselves. This is Dr. Jerome Talleyrand with High at 9 News.
Man, I like that you said that this study is lame, Dr. T, calling them what it is. Like,
Oh, it is.
yeah, it's just what it
Gloves
is.
are off.
Yeah, that's right. What do you
Bad
think?
study. It looks good, but it's just a bad study. It's
just
not saying anything new that we've not known for 20 years already. That cannabis helps people with arthritis. And we've all known that. And it's just saying, yeah, cannabis helps people with arthritis. We got to do a better study. But they can't do a better study.
Isn't that just more waste? And what's the difference between
bureaucracy?
What's
They need
no,
Doge. They need Doge.
it's not more waste. It's a way to get grant money.
yeah?
It's a way to siphon funds and give somebody a paycheck to do something and tell us, thank you, Captain Obvious, for telling us what we already know.
Exactly. It's more government waste.
Lame duck studies during a lame duck
Doge.
presidency. Imagine that.
Come on, Jenny Beth.
Get out of here. Get it,
Elon
girl.
Musk in there. And Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah, I can't wait. Team Doge.
My congestion's clearing and my attitude's coming back.
Oh my goodness.
We've studied long enough. It's time to smoke.
Oh
Are you
boy.
cutting it out or are you
More
leaving?
study, but I'm proposing for better study. I want to know whether a type 2 is better than a type 1 for psoriatic arthritis. I want to know, or rheumatoid arthritis.
I'm confused. I'm confused by that, Dr. T. What's the difference between a type 1, and type 2, and a type 3 type of cannabis?
So type 1 is what most people are smoking out there. High THC, low CBD.
Just whatever's out there in the streets.
No, it's a ratio. So cannabis is best expressed as a ratio of THC to CBD rather than THC alone. You see that problem because look at what's happening with hemp. They just classify the product based on one compound, but it's really the relationship between the THC and CBD that makes most sense. And that's how botanists have always looked at the plant, at the chemotype of the plant in ratio. The first ratio is type 1. That's what all you guys are smoking. There's type 2, like Harlequin. I don't know if you guys know.
Oh yeah, high CBD varietals.
Not high, 1-to-1, because Charlotte's Web has high CBD. That's different.
Got it.
Right?
Okay, but I've always known Harlequin as a CBD weed. Just it's always been sold as a CBD weed.
Well, yeah, because that's what the streets call it. But the scientists call it, accurately, they call it type 2.
Okay.
And type 3, and Harlequin is different than Charlotte's Web or ACDC or Ringo's Gift, right? Type 3 is 20-to-1 ratio of CBD to THC, right? It's some people might call hemp. But if the THC is at 0.4%, then it's marijuana. It doesn't make sense. But it's still a type 3 to the scientist because the ratio is really what matters.
Got it.
Type 1, type 2, type 3.
Interesting.
Dr. T, Dr. T, I have a question.
Sure.
Is there a type 4 for those plants with other ratios of other cannabinoids like CBN or CBA?
There's been a type 4 and 5 proposed. They're just they're not out there yet. People are not really out. So, if you're going into a store and wanting to choose your weed, you want to know whether it's a type 1, type 2, or type 3. Some people who are like, the weed's too strong for me, you want a type 2 because it's more balanced THC, CBD.
It's a mids market.
1,
it's a mids market.
Well, mids is the quality of the flower. You can have a good quality type 2 and a bad quality.
Okay. All right. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair thing. What were you going to say? Go ahead.
Yeah, terps are a different story, right?
What were you going to say, Dr. Mark? You're going to chime in right there before Jesse's question?
No, I was just going to make sure that it's clear that the convention is that it's alphabetical order, so C before T. So whenever you talk about a ratio, it's always CBD to THC and not the other way around. People used to get this confused and put the THC in front of the CBD, but it's alphabetical order. So when you talk about 20-to-1, Dr. T, it's 20 CBD to 1 THC, right?
And that's a type 3.
Got it.
Yeah, that's the convention.
That is fascinating.
Wow,
I never knew that.
About weed. That was amazing.
Yeah, I just
Thank you.
got a wrinkle in my brain.
I know, Jason, because you've been living in these hemp bill 2018 rules where nothing is nothing.
I mean, as Dr. T would call it, I've been living in these streets.
Marijuana,
you know what I'm saying?
Nothing.
As Dr. T would call it, I'd be living in these streets, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Dr.
The street
T, did
harlequin.
you say you would rather support Schedule 3 because of the medical research capability than deny it and keep it Schedule 1?
Correct.
But obviously, the even better solution would be to deschedule it. Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, we need to deschedule this plant. Rescheduling is total BS and just handing the industry to the pharmaceutical industry.
It changes the banking system. It gets more research in. It's not total BS.
It's total BS.
It's just that descheduling is better, but it's not total BS.
I'd rather keep it illegal.
Well, Dr. T, don't you think that it will change the nature of the industry in the sense that you would have to have a pharmaceutical Schedule 3 manufacturing license to produce the product in a Schedule 3?
Because if dispensary owners right now have to have a pharmaceutical license to sell.
No, they don't. There's no dispensary that has a pharmaceutical license.
Hold on, let him
so
finish.
So when you reschedule, there won't be one either, right? It's not going to change that.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, it is.
No, you're bringing it to more access, not less access. So you're not going to restrict the use of it right now it's the most restrictive, Schedule 1. Schedule 3 is less restrictive. So it's going to be easier to access, not harder to access.
I see how you're.
I think it's going to bring the FDA in where the FDA doesn't have.
FDA does schedule. FDA is in.
No, they're not. No, they're not. Yeah. FDA has no jurisdiction over Schedule 1 drugs.
No, they're the ones who, if you want to use a Schedule 1 drug, you need to first get permission from the Department of Justice and then run your studies by the FDA. That's the way it is. And you can do studies on Schedule 1 drugs. It's just very hard. Mm-hmm. But the FDA is involved in those studies. They're not out because it's Schedule 1. They're more involved.
I understand what you're saying, Dr. T.
Just like the snitches. They're around, man. You might not know they're there.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with this. I don't know if I necessarily agree with this analysis, but I do respect Dr. T's opinion on this 100%, and I understand exactly what he's saying and where he's coming from. I'm just not sure if in practicality that's how it will play out. I'm not sold on that one yet. But
what I have to say is, don't be afraid and think about the patients.
Oh, I'm not afraid. I do care about the patients, and that's why I want to make sure that they're getting the right access. And I believe, from how I understand drug laws and drug enforcement of laws and everything else like that, because I have been enforced upon for many years. I just don't see Schedule 3 as a win. I'd rather leave it Schedule 1 until we get full descheduling, because Schedule 3 is just giving it all over to the pharmaceutical industry, because they already have drug preclusion on CBD and THC, and they regulate everything by the molecule as opposed to the compound. And therefore, once that happens, the FDA, all they have to do is just start sending letters to everyone saying, hey, these are illicit products. These compounds are finding our thing, because we basically have jurisdiction over that now.
There you go,
moving
Jason Beck. He's the head of the FDA now.
People can grow themselves to Schedule 3 is going to fail miserably with the trap winning all day long. We want to keep a trap market. Move it to Schedule 3.
Yes.
No one is going to get a doctor's prescription and go buy some mids grown by a fucking pharmaceutically owned MSO at Walgreens. Period.
Nope.
Got to get on a flight. Love
you
all.
Dr. Mark, you have a fantastic trip home back to the East Coast, man.
Type 7.
Much
Type
love.
7.
Yeah. Look at this.
Bye safely.
Look at this. On this, while Dr. Mark is heading out, we're going to run into a commercial, and we are going to be right back, you guys.
Are you a business that's suffering from the hyperinflation that is plaguing America today? We have the solution for you. That's right, Patriot Business Financing. Head on over to www.patriotbfc.com and apply for a loan up to $2 million. Any state, any industry, even the cannabis industry, the CBD industry, as well as the industrial hemp fiber industry. Secure up to $2 million today, and make sure that when you apply, you tell Paul you said hi from High at 9.
Yes, and we are back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure that you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. At the beginning of the show, we were just 20 subscribers away from hitting 5,000 subscribers. So please make sure that you do that so that we can go into the weekend with over 5K subscribers on this channel here on YouTube. We would super appreciate it. Also, make sure that you are also following us on X. We are trying to boost up our X platform right now because X does not allow for any censorship and whatnot, and we need to get to 500 verified subscribers. So if you have a blue check next to your name on X, please make sure that you are subscribing to us at highat9news.com, and all of the articles that we cover on today's show you can find directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. Are you all ready for America's new #1 D9 gummy line? That's right, we are bringing to you Parody Gummy. These vegan gummies are manufactured in a safe harbor facility, so you know they're gonna be clean and safe, and they're not gonna give you any of the runaround. Coming in, we have 3 amazing flavors for you. We have the Raspberry Riots. Also, we have the Sleepy Joes if you need something to help you sleep at night. And if you're feeling like raging and having a party time, that's right, we have the Pineapple Bad Hombre. If you're feeling like a bad hombre, make sure you head over to www.parodygummy.com and secure your bag today. And we do want to acknowledge, we did get a couple super chats in. I'm a little late on this, so I do apologize. But El Guapotron 4000 says, I got 5 on it. So shout out El Guapotron. We appreciate you always tuning in and offering all of your antics in the chat. It's always a fun time with your comments over here. And also the C word with a big old super chat too, who says, Bay Area got a tsunami warning yesterday. It was actually all of California, the C word. And just in time for San Francisco's Turtnami Seed Market. He says, see you there, farmers. So make sure that you go and check out, what is it, Turtnami up there in the Bay Area. I think it's this weekend. So shout out to the C word on that. And Rico, it's all you, bro.
Oh, yeah, y'all. Up next, he is a design branding strategy visionary. Helps build powerful brands and got more kids than a nursery for baby goats. Here to break us off with our story of the second half. Jesse Barney. Yeah.
Going out well.
Cheap, bro, not those cheap. Anyways, this is an interesting story because it kind of tags on our conversation a little bit. In that, as I explored this story, I didn't really know much about Denmark's medical pilot program. And so I had to go do a ton of research. And as I did the research and understood what was going on in Denmark, I think it very much looks like what to me would look like what would happen under Schedule 3. So I think it's an interesting thing because it's definitely a model for how it could go down. So here's the headline. New era for medical cannabis in Denmark as government announces plans for permanent legal framework. Denmark's 6-year medical cannabis pilot scheme could soon be expanded into a fully legalized market, following a surprise announcement from the government last week. The Danish pilot scheme has been running since 2018 and has continued to expand in both scope and patient numbers over the past 6 years, with 4 different access schemes now operating. Following the publication of a comprehensive analysis of these programs, Minister of the Interior of Health, Sophie Lode, last week met with the parties behind the trial scheme to discuss plans to make the scheme permanent. Danish medical cannabis oil producer Stenocare tells Business of Cannabis that while the structure of the new framework is not yet clear, it's likely to see a significant expansion in the market. It is going to grow the market. Medicinal products are primarily prescribed by specialists, while the pilot program allows medical cannabis to be prescribed by general practitioners. So there's a larger pool of prescribers out there. I think we will see an increase in treatment. Its CEO Thomas, the fun Danish or Denmark name, Skovland Schnegelsberg, said. So what happened? Last week, Ms. Lode announced for the first time that the government planned to extend the pilot scheme permanently. In a press release, the minister said that 1,800 patients had accessed the various schemes over the last 3 years, collectively redeeming around 20,000 prescriptions. This number has been steadily increasing, with prescription numbers now at their highest level since the start of the trial. And while various side effects have been closely monitored and reported by the health agency, no new knowledge has emerged that treatment with medical cannabis has negative patient safety consequences. As such, on behalf of the government, Ms. Lode invited SF, Liberal Alliance, and Nedlisten, Dance Folk Party, and Alternativet to negotiations on the trial scheme on medical cannabis on November 19th. According to Mr. Schnegelsberg, the announcement was completely unexpected and came out of the blue following radio silence from the government on progressing the scheme throughout the year. He explained that late last year, industry, doctors, and patient organizations were contacted to provide input for the evaluation report, which was published alongside this announcement. At the time, there was a rush to gather feedback, suggesting an eagerness to move forward with the evaluation and make a decision based on it, and then suddenly everything went quiet. Many industry organizations and stakeholders reached out to politicians to ask what was happening, only to receive a vague response like, "It's not a priority," or "We'll see what happens." That has been the tone ever since. Jep Krog Rasmussen, CEO of Danish medical cannabis operator DanCan Pharma, believes that the announcement was a matter of political strategy. He told Business of Cannabis, "The time now appears ripe for addressing the pilot program on medical cannabis. The timing is, after all, reasonably appropriate, considering that the scheme does not formally expire until the end of next year, 2025. And that's mostly the story. And then they give a little bit about this report itself, and they talk about it. And what's interesting is they talk about that there's 4 different, as they said, they kept saying structures or I forget the word they set up there. But there's 4 different parts of this. And the way that they regulate it right now is one of the structures is pharma products, which are Sativex and Epidiolex and products like that. The next one is pilot program products. And these are actual cannabis products, kind of like we know. So they're selling flower, but they're selling it as tea, and it is vapor, or you can vaporize it, but they're selling it in a very pharmaceutical way, which is really interesting. It's a totally different thing than our dispensary model. They're selling it in the pharmacy as flower, but it's as tea, and there's very limited companies too. There's only like 2 or 3 companies that actually are allowed to grow and sell the flower in the pharmacies there. And then there's a third one, which is unlicensed products, which I don't really understand because it says these are not formally approved, but are available through special dispensations like Nabilone and Marinol. So I don't understand why they're these pharmaceutical grade products that are only available through special dispensations. And then the interesting one is the 4th one, which is magistral products, which means if your doctor subscribes cannabis to you in Denmark, and then you go to your pharmacist and they don't have it, they can actually locate it from another country and have it shipped and bring it in either from the US or Germany or Canada or some legal country, and actually create the product there in the pharmacy themselves and sell it to you. So really interesting model for doing this in a very pharmaceutical, very medical way. And I'm sure Dr. Talleyrand, I see him moving his head as I talk about this. I did not know anything about this structure. It seems like a very medical, pharmaceutical way to approach cannabis. It's interesting to say the least. Definitely incredibly different from America's structure of medical cannabis with the dispensaries. And I think also a picture of a model of how maybe the Schedule 3 sort of industry could or would work. And that's the whole story. I'm Jesse Barney with High at 9 News. And I especially can't wait to hear what Dr. Talleyrand has to say about this. I'm sure you probably know more than I do. So there you go. Oh, he's muted.
Well, it's an interesting structure, like you say. It definitely, it's very European, if I can say that. Germany had something similar, and Germany does classify their flowers as type 1, type 2, type 3. So it's just all about trying to regulate. Doesn't make sense to me that you're selling it as a tea. Like, what, you're not going to take the bag out and pack the flower?
They're just selling shake, Dr. Talleyrand. They're just selling shake.
So you're saying that it's okay to sell it as ground up versus as a whole bud?
They're selling it in a pharmaceutical packaging, and then in a
trying to cut down on
that's just like a regular package
form. Yeah, but it's just an interesting way of kind of branding. This is really a branding thing. It comes down to the way you think about it and framing it as tea and something that you can use, which you could. I mean, I actually haven't really thought about just taking flour and making tea with it. It's so obvious.
Oh, but, like here in U.S., you're not. I mean, in California, Newsom says you're not allowed to sell smokable hemp. So I suggest the hemp manufacturer.
How's he going to stop you?
Sell it, pack it in a tea bag, sell it that way, right?
How's he going to stop you?
Take it and do what you want with it at home. Right?
That's right.
So it's just absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, that's a cute way. That's a cute way to do it, to sell it in a tea bag with like one rolling paper. You know what I'm saying? And already pre-ground.
Like graze it on somebody's nose.
They can get that at the corner store.
Yeah.
Stay within the rules.
Oh,
and you'll be
man,
fine.
that's so funny.
Just dangle it.
But, in terms of the law, we're different than Denmark. It's centralized government there. And here we already have state laws that are allowing the sale of flower, cannabis. We're not going to go backwards.
Fair.
So that's what I'm interested in, Dr. Talleyrand, is you're saying that the state laws and the existing frameworks of the way that we treat medical cannabis will trump the fact that the pharmaceutical companies have to adhere to Schedule 3 regulations in their production and distribution of their products. So, but don't you think that then they're going to actually sue and say, no, well, then you have to open up our products as wide as cannabis products are in the state level.
Yeah.
And that's going to like devolve the whole conversation?
No, they can sue now. Right now, people are taking the products, they can sue it, right? Because they have
what would they sue the state?
They can sue whatever, but they're not.
Oh man, I want to see a lawsuit.
Pharma has trouble with plants, and that's really their Achilles heel. And they really try to regulate this, but the plant keeps shifting shapes, right? It changes chemicals, depending on where you're growing it, right? And so it's really hard for them to nail it down. And that's been really the biggest problem with this whole industry is they want to nail it down, they want to own it, but they can't. It's hard to own a plant. I mean, how many plants does pharma own? 2.
So are you
that they've tried, right?
So are you inferring that if it goes to Schedule 3, then there's going to be this landslide of research and it's going to show probably that it shouldn't even be Schedule 3, like very quickly?
Correct.
Okay.
People like Sue Cicely will be
That's
able
the
to
best
block
argument
the
I've heard for it. Yeah, okay, that's the best argument I've heard for it. I really appreciate that. Because I've been anti-Schedule 3 completely, and I have this whole notion of what the pharmaceutical model is. I mean, serving weed in a pharmacy is very different than a dispensary. And it seems to me, and I think a lot of people, that if it goes Schedule 3, then cannabis is going to be forced to be served in the pharmacy in those form factors, and that there's no flower or natural grade product like flower in a pharmacy that I know of.
Yeah, but the dispensary, you'll still be able to go to the dispensary. They won't die. I mean, and if you want to get some good weed, that's where you're going to go. You're not going to go to the pharmacy to get good weed.
No, you're going to go to the trap to get good weed, Dr. T.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's what everybody does in California now anyway, right?
Right.
With your Schedule 1 restrictions and the well, it's really mostly due to the overtaxation.
So you're saying essentially it plays out the same way. The trap stays alive. In fact, it probably grows because of Schedule 3.
It'll grow.
But at least we get the research. And then that landslide of research will create massive change.
I'm still.
Okay. I love it. I'm actually on board. You just single-handedly changed my mind.
Hey, you know.
Awesome.
Look, you didn't change my mind yet, but you know what I'm saying. It's okay.
A few more wrinkles in there.
That's right. Need a few more wrinkles. You know, need a few more case studies, Dr. T. I would say for all of that. You know what I mean? But man, Jenny Beth, you have anything you want to say on this?
I mean, my position still stands, right? Like, we don't know for a fact that the dispensaries will still be there. We don't know any of this for a fact. And I've watched very quickly, like, yes, we know that Prop 64 sucks. Have we done a damn thing to fix it? No, because we have some regulations and we have some stuff in place, right? So I'm of the opinion that once we put policies in place, our government and this country is very, very, very slow to fix things if they fix them at all.
Fair enough. It's a good point. It's a good point, Jenny Beth. Rico, you have anything before we move on?
Bergen.
All right. Smorgasbord.
Swedish chef. That's the wrong country, bro.
Yeah, we're gonna roll into our final commercial. We're gonna be right back. The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated. You guys are so funny today, man. You guys have all kinds of jokes.
Technically, Dr. T, the Dutch colonized the shit out of South Africa.
Oh yeah, interesting.
Oh, look at that. See,
came back.
The clicking came. See, I see what you guys are doing.
Jason's favorite African American.
That's who Elon Musk.
Dutch roots.
Yep. Fair enough. Elon's the man. Shout out to Elon, Tesla, SpaceX, all of them over there. But coming up next, that's right, it's none other than America's sweetheart, Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3 that helps justice impact victims get their lives back on track. That's right. She can also help your business get back on track with all their metric non-compliance-ness with her company, Kind Cannabis. But nonetheless, here it is, none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
And all your other non-compliant and every other bullshit. All right. So, speaking of compliantness and laws and the DEA and this horse shit of a show we have going with the rescheduling, a federal DEA judge has scolded the agency for failing to provide required evidence ahead of a major marijuana rescheduling hearing. Administrative Law Judge John Maroney criticized the DEA in a pre-hearing ruling this week, directing officials to submit a complete list of evidence by December 13th. This comes as part of ongoing proceedings to determine whether cannabis should be moved from Schedule 1, where it's classified alongside heroin and LSD, to Schedule 3, a category that includes substances like ketamine and testosterone. Judge Mulrooney outlined the timeline for merit-based hearings, which are set to begin on January 21st and continue into early March. Participants in the hearings include government representatives, industry stakeholders, law enforcement, advocacy groups, and scientists, and, of course, Kevin Sabet. Each group will present arguments either in support or opposition of the proposed reclassification. The schedule starts with DEA presenting its case on January 21st, followed by various groups such as Hemp for Victory, the National Cannabis Industry Association, and Smart Approaches for Marijuana. Each participant is allotted a specific day to present, with the hearings expected to conclude on March 6th. Maroney made it clear that the hearings are not about whether marijuana is inherently good or bad. Instead, the focus will be on scientific and legal arguments surrounding whether cannabis should remain in the strictest category of controlled substances or be downgraded to Schedule 3, which would allow for greater research opportunities and tax benefits for the cannabis industry. However, the proceedings have already sparked controversy. Mulrooney criticized the DEA's initial failure to submit a comprehensive list of witnesses and evidence, calling it unnecessary delay in what has already been a complex process. He also stressed that the more than 43,000 public comments submitted during the rulemaking process cannot be used as evidence warning the DEA against trying to include them in the formal record. There is also skepticism about the DEA's impartiality. The agency has yet to take a definitive stance on the rescheduling proposal, and concerns have been raised about alleged improper communications between the DEA and prohibitionist group, also Kevin Sabet. Judge Mulrooney denied a motion to remove the DEA from proceedings, but did criticize the agency's handling of certain legal challenges. If cannabis is reclassified to Schedule III, it would represent a significant shift in federal policy. Though it would not legalize marijuana, licensed cannabis businesses would be allowed to take federal tax deductions, a key issue for the industry, and some barriers to research would be lifted. The Biden administration initiated the rescheduling review for following a recommendation from the Department of Health and Human Services earlier this year. While Attorney General Merrick Garland signed off on the proposed rule, it's notable that the DEA administration and Milgram did not, raising questions about the agency's internal position on the matter. The hearings come as marijuana policy remains a contentious topic on Capitol Hill. When some lawmakers, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, are pushing for a quick action on rescheduling, others have criticized the process as rushed and unconventional. Meanwhile, President-elect Donald Trump has expressed some support for cannabis reform, adding another layer of uncertainty to the future of federal marijuana policy. For now, all eyes are on the January hearings as stakeholders prepare to present their cases in what could be a pivotal moment for cannabis regulation in the U.S. So the DEA, I wish that good old Dale Schaefer was here so that he could tell you better than I can that he wants to see these guys get fucking spanked, because they should be. One, you're having improper communications with Kevin Sabet and pillow talking over what shouldn't be happening and having all these improper conversations. Now you're trying to pull some trickeration and not present a full list of evidence so you can have a gotcha moment. There is no gotcha moment. That's why we have proceedings. But I'll throw it to you guys, and I'm sure I'll have more to say later.
They should, I mean, the DEA should be done. They should get chopped.
They should get spanked.
I mean, I think they should just be reappropriated.
They're talking about like reassigning and everything.
Yeah.
Just put them on
fentanyl. Yeah, they should just focus on fentanyl. They should just focus on fentanyl.
There's way too much money being spent on the DEA. They have too much influence, and what has it done for us?
Mm-hmm.
Millions of people dead
and in prison.
Yep. Totally.
That's just in America.
That's right.
I mean, I'm not surprised that, but I do like to see like a little swaddling of the DEA. I mean, that always amuses me. You know what I'm saying.
I mean, I do too.
Mm-hmm.
However, people that are in charge of of tearing these people down and everything, they trash too.
Hold on a second. You're the one that's always talking about tearing the whole system down, Rico. What are you talking about?
I'm saying like the people that are interrogating them and like all this stuff, these public hearings and stuff that we see on TV. Like, I do not want to see what's his name, Jim Jordan. I do. I love it. His pedo protect. I just want to see him. I just want to see him wear a sport coat, tearing people down. Right? Like all these people got like they put the worst people up there to tear other people down in these public hearings. Is all I'm saying.
Did you see the Secret Service thing yesterday? That was pretty good. That was interesting. They were getting
they just try to politicize a bunch of bullshit.
So good.
Yeah, just try to politicize a bunch of bullshit.
I try to tell you guys.
The old boy from Texas came in there with his own agenda, and he got
didn't have his own agenda. He had to protect America.
I was there
agenda.
as a representative. I was not there, to protect all the people just to get a fucking photo op.
Yeah, that Secret Service guy should be fired.
Bullshit, because people come in there with their own agenda. That's what I'm saying.
The Secret Service guy should have been fired, straight up, fired. Prove me wrong.
Anyway, this story is a sign that Schedule 3 is going to happen, guys. Sorry to say for those of you who don't want it to happen. It looks like the judge's perspective is evidence-based.
Mm-hmm. He is.
The evidence is overwhelmingly for the plant. There's just, you can put as many negative groups up there as you want to. The plant can put them all down to shame.
Yeah.
So bring the evidence in.
Look at that. They're all getting their ass handed to them by a girl, Dr. T.
Hey, I got 3 sisters. I had my ass handed to me.
All these agencies getting their ass handed to them by a female plant. Look at that. She's just fan leafing them back and forth. Pop, 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 pop.
Women are the best.
Jason, I hand you your ass all the time.
Never, not species. A chance in hell.
There's no ask to hand. He doesn't have one. I've looked.
Whoa, pause.
There is ask him out.
Yeah. Oh, pause with all that craziness.
You've looked?
Of course, I've looked.
All right, Jason, you gonna bring us our last one, man? You gonna bring us home today?
Yeah. I'm gonna bring us home today, you guys. Man, I have a really, really fascinating story for you guys. And Dr. T, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this because, man. And Rico, this is for you too, bro, because it's coming out of Chi-Town, you know what I'm saying? Where everyone is turning red all of a sudden in Chi-Town. Shout out to all the people dropping their Democratic alliances and going over to the Republican side, but this has nothing to do with that because a Chicago forensic testing lab accused of providing flawed results in marijuana DUI convictions, you guys. But is anyone surprised by this? I know I'm not. Because serious test questions about a Chicago lab could change the outcome of hundreds of impaired driving convictions in Illinois that could unlock the jail doors for some DUI convicts. After a months-long investigation, the ABC7I team discovered some of the test results from a prominent Chicago lab used by prosecutors have been deemed unreliable and could be inaccurate, you guys. That's right. The lab, University of Illinois Chicago Analytical Forensic Testing Laboratory, that's a long-ass name, is accused of providing flawed test results in cases of driving under the influence of marijuana, many of them resulting in motorists convicted and sent to jail, and there are allegations of a cover-up, you guys. Corey Lee of Sycamore, Illinois, was convicted in 2022 of aggravated DUI cannabis resulting in death. He crashed into another vehicle in 2018, killing a 52-year-old Pedro Pacilius Sanchez and 22-year-old Pedro Pacilius Delgado. In a quote, "There are two people that are no longer here, and that is something that is difficult to talk about," Lee told the I-Team from the Robertson Correctional Center in Southern Illinois. He admits having used cannabis in the past, but insists he did not use it before getting behind the wheel that day. In a quote, "I know that I was not under the influence that morning," he said. In a bench trial in Boone County, Illinois, a judge ruled otherwise, relying on a blood test result showing Lee's level of Delta-9 THC, the main psychoactive compound in marijuana, at 6.5 nanograms. In Illinois, that's beyond the limit and is an illegal amount for motorists. In a quote, "The accrediting agency decided to audit the lab and then began to find a series of non-conformance or failure to follow scientific standards, which has now put about 1,600 cannabis DUI cases that they tested in jeopardy." Don Ramsel, criminal defense attorney, that's what he said. In an additional quote, "It's malfeasance, misdirection, and incompetence," criminal defense attorney Don Ramsel said. Ramsel, in a suburban DUI defense attorney, and is one of the lawyers representing Lee, who is now challenging his conviction, which was based on a test done by the University of Illinois Chicago Analytical Forensic Testing Laboratory. A Boone County court filing claims the analysis of blood tests was somehow flawed, resulting in inaccurate THC numbers, and was unable to distinguish Delta-9 THC from other commonly encountered THC isomers such as Delta-8. It also accuses the lab of covering up the flaws since, guess how long, Rico? 2021, you guys. Mm-hmm. In a quote, the University of Illinois Chicago, technically Illinois is known for, and Chicago is known for cover-ups, but nonetheless, in a quote, the University of Illinois Chicago lab has been providing misleading testimony in court, and as a result of that, their accrediting agency decided to audit the lab and then began to find a series of, they call them non-conformance or failure to follow scientific standards, which has now put about 1,600 cannabis DUI cases that they tested in jeopardy, Ramsel said. For months, the I-Team has been digging through records that raise concerns about the lab's analytical methods and how tests were conducted for substances that determine whether someone is driving under the influence of marijuana. The tests should have been able to distinguish between Delta 8 THC and Delta 9 THC. I don't know how they're going to do that, but whatever. The substance that actually should be measured to determine if someone is driving under the influence according to Illinois' law. In a quote, "This is what I would describe as a festering scandal," said Jim O'Donnell, a forensic pharmacologist with Rush University Medical School. O'Donnell's expertise as a forensic pharmacologist is typically used by defense teams in criminal trials, and in a quote says, "The consequences are great. You know, there's people who are charged with felonies. Their life is certainly affected, and if they are convicted, they may end up in prison," O'Donnell said. In an additional quote, "There are instances, unfortunately, where we have had bad apples in the system, but that's the role of the court and the role of the accreditation process to be sure they no longer do work." Bruce Goldberg said that from the University of Florida, professor of forensic medicine. And emails and internal communications obtained by the I-Team revealed the lab acknowledged testing problems last March and waited until May to alert police departments and prosecutors of possible flawed results. Of course, this sounds like the standard procedure. In a quote, "The supervision of the lab also was what I would describe as not doing the job, not staying up to date, not dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and following the scientific requirements and scientific recommendations," O'Donnell said. Bruce Goldberg, a professor of forensic medicine at the University of Florida, said in his over 40 years of experience, lab scientists are good, credible people who want to produce accurate and reliable test results. I would actually agree with that. But in a quote says, "People rely upon us as forensic scientists to do work that is reliable and defensible in court. And if we fail them, we fail the system, which could impact highway traffic safety," Goldberg said. "There are instances, unfortunately, where we have had bad apples in the system, but that's the role of the court and the role of the accreditation process to discover these bad apples and get to them the isolated so that way they can be sure that they no longer do work." The University of Illinois in Chicago has now stopped doing tests for marijuana in law enforcement cases and issued the following statement. You guys all get ready for this. "The University of Illinois Chicago is aware of concerns raised regarding the testing of certain biological samples previously conducted at one of its laboratories. The university is conducting an investigation to examine the matter thoroughly, and as this is an ongoing process, we are unable to provide additional details at this time. UIC remains committed to upholding the highest standards of laboratory research, integrity, and compliance, and ensuring the well-being of the communities we serve." In a quote, "It's really a culture where laboratory analysis and labs still feel they're above the law, that their mistakes are internal and not to be shared with the rest of us," Ramsell said. Sounds like they all think they're Hunter Biden. In the Corey Lee court filing, Ramsell claims the widely used lab discovered its testing flaws as far back as 2021, but kept it secret and it wasn't disclosed. And in a quote says, "I don't believe that the prosecutor or judge was wrong, but as far as the UIC lab, I believe that someone there should have to answer for this." Corey Lee, convicted of a marijuana DUI crash back in 2022. Lee was sentenced to 6 years in prison, and that is where he should stay, according to attorney Patrick Salvi, who represented the police's family in a 2020 civil case against Lee's employer. A Boone County jury awarded the Pasilas family $9 million, and in a statement, Salvi said, "Independent of any problem with the lab results, there was an ample evidence of reckless, and the expectation is the full 6-year sentence should be served by Lee," he said. Lee said he believes he deserves some kind of punishment for what happened, but does not think incarceration is the right way for him to pay his debt to society. I mean, you killed 2 people, bro. What are you thinking? I mean, but nonetheless, in a quote, "I don't believe that the prosecutor or judge was wrong, like they were but they were doing their job. But as far as the UIC lab, I believe that someone there should have to answer for this, Lee said. States attorneys across the Metro Chicago area are already working to figure out which convictions were based on faulty lab results and how many defendants this actually may affect. And man, oh man, I just can imagine having a DUI in Illinois right now. Oh man, I'm going to go find me a lawyer and make sure that I'm fighting my case and get my license back. But I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Dr. T, what do you think about all these faulty lab results for these people getting charged with DUIs in Illinois?
You know, it doesn't seem to me that the lab's the problem. The problem is this guy just drove poorly. And if you look at the evidence, THC content in blood or urine does not correlate with driving performance. Mm-hmm. So that's where I think the ABC News just missed the story. That's just like, why are they even using this as evidence? Guy drove poorly, killed some people. That's no good. And, you know, ways to keep him from driving poorly in the future is really what we should be working on.
Hey, Jason.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you something.
Go for it.
I just want to know if this is too far-fetched. We had the story earlier from Cole. Shout out to the Cole Memo story he sent us earlier this week on the Illinois Supreme Court saying that cops now have probable cause off of odor alone. Yep. Do you think it's connected to this? They knew this shit was coming out.
No, because they're very two different things. I don't think these two things correlate. This is a scandal that's happening with these testing labs in regards with people. All
these people are gonna get off on DUIs. You got to replace these people.
Yeah, all these people are definitely they're definitely going to get off.
A lot of money.
They're definitely going to get off. But at the same time, there'll be more people that catch DUIs from the smell of fresh cannabis in their car. I find it super interesting that the state of Illinois distinguishes between the smell of fresh cannabis and the smell of burnt cannabis. And so,
if you're talking about sobriety, then you absolutely should, because until you put fire to it, it's not getting you high.
Well, Illinois's whole case yesterday, Jenny Beth, was all about fresh cannabis, not burnt cannabis, and that's what they were saying that they have the right for probable cause on.
Because they're looking at whether you've smoked it, and they're looking at whether you're high or not, or they're looking at whether you might be fucking taking 15
You're a little too sick yesterday to recall all of this.
Yeah, but I'm not. I'm gonna use the hard word. I'm not an idiot, Jason.
I didn't say you were.
We've already gone back and forth about why the difference between smoked and fresh cannabis matters, because if it smells strongly of fresh cannabis, one of two things could have happened. I could have gotten really excited on the way home from the dispensary, and I'm like, let me smell it real quick, and pop my jar open. Or I could have 25 packs in the trunk. That's why they're searching for that, for fresh cannabis. It's not about impaired driving. And I also want to say...
But they're charging people with impaired driving.
Hold on. I also want to say, fuck this guy, because you killed 2 people.
Exactly.
And you're trying to find any loophole that you can, so you don't have to fucking have your comeuppance.
I agree with that.
No. It's the lawyer's job to find those loopholes.
I understand, and shame on that sleazy ass lawyer.
No, fuck that. Salvy's the fucking man. He's my lawyer in a couple of cases.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at this.
Salvy, Pritchard, and Stocks.
Amazing. Don't think it's a good thing to do. 2 people are dead. So this guy needs to go sit down and think about what the fuck he's done.
He's been sitting down, Jenny Beth. He got a 6-year sentence.
He needs to continue sitting there and twiddle his thumbs and draw X's on the wall or whatever he's got to do. But 6 years
should be doing some push-ups.
6 years is nothing compared to the fact that these families will never have their family members again. They don't get to pop back up in 6 years because this guy.
I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that, Jenny Beth. That I think this guy should still probably do his 6 years. I mean, you killed 2 people. That's 3 years for each individual you killed. And they definitely had more than 3 years each left on their lives, judging by the ages of them. But
maybe we don't know all the circumstances surrounding that case. So
no, we don't. We only know what this is. But I do think that it is a unjust system of how Illinois gives people DUIs based off of these falsified results. And I imagine there's going to be a lot of backlog cases in Illinois in regards with anyone that and you know, I also wonder. No, probably wouldn't affect any alcohol cases. It would only affect cannabis cases. But anyone that got a cannabis DUI in Illinois, I mean, I think that they should in between 2021 and then, I think they got a viable case to have their charges dismissed.
Fair enough. I mean, like, listen, if we take the DUI part off, we take the cannabis part off, right? Mm-hmm. Isn't there still a separate charge that's called vehicular manslaughter?
I agree with you. I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. But I'm referring to people that, let's just say you didn't do anything. You just got pulled over and you got a cannabis DUI and nothing happened. You didn't hurt anybody or anything else like that. Adam Rico just dropped, so we got to do an adjustment.
I didn't drop.
Oh, well, someone dropped. Dr. T dropped. Dr. T
Kenny just dropped again.
Oh, Dr. T just dropped. Dr. T just dropped. Man, my bad.
Hey, but I do got to go. Love y'all.
Much love, Rico. You have an amazing day today, my man. Yes.
We've spent so long arguing how it's a good thing that somebody might get out of jail after killing people.
I didn't argue that. I'm arguing for all the people that just got normal DUIs, okay, that did not hurt anybody, that just received a DUI, and that's who I'm arguing for. I'm not talking about if you killed someone, yeah, you definitely got to go and do some jail time and sit down for a while, and you definitely should not be on the roads once you get out, for sure. You should be on your walking stick and whatnot.
Good thing for this guy, Chicago has a very robust public transportation system.
Oh, we just got a big old super chat, you guys, from the Cole Memo, who's out there in Illinois, firsthand experience out there, who says, a person from Sam agreed this lab is flawed. So holy shit, even Project Sam even agrees that this lab is flawed. I mean, the hell must be freezing over right now, Jenny Beth. What do you think about this, Jesse?
I could only echo what everybody already said. I don't have any new insight or anything to offer that wasn't said. It does suck that the DUI thing is happening to so many people. It also sucks that this guy's using that as an excuse to get off of something that's pretty heinous. Yeah, and the Cole Memo says episode 97 of his show, the Cole Memo, episode 97, features the testimony on this case, and so I encourage people to go ahead and check that out. Shout out to the Cole Memo. Much always holding it down. Oh, I do have two small announcements, you guys, that I want to mention before we close out.
Well, you better get them off because it's 10:33 and I gotta go.
I'm gonna get them off fast, Jenny Beth. So fast.
Creepy. So
fast. Where are you?
Heads up really quick. Ben Lubin over on X says the audio is better here than on YouTube.
Well, shout out to everyone on X, and shout out to everyone that stayed with us through the technical difficulties that we experienced on X today. And our friend Ingrid, who always is in here in the show, she is up for she is up for the U.S. Hemp and Building Association for their board of members, and so anyone that is voting with USHBA, we want to make sure that you vote for Ingrid on this topic. And I have one other thing that I meant to read a little while ago. A few days ago, and so I apologize for missing this, but we do want to end today's show in the memory of Avery, who used to be one of my vendors, true patriot in the cannabis space, and he was actually someone that caught a case delivering cannabis to Harborside for Steve D'Angelo, and Steve D'Angelo would not sign off on his thing with the court, and ended up doing 6 or 8 years because of the fact that Steve D'Angelo would not acknowledge that he was bringing cannabis to him when he was bringing cannabis to Harborside. And so I want to read this. She put this together. Avery was a true original, a fearless soul who lived the life to the fullest and left an incredible mark on everyone he encountered. Known to many in the cannabis industry as the pirate with a parachute, Avery embodied courage, passion, and a deep sense of purpose. That's because Avery liked to base jump, and I used to live at the top of Fox Plaza, which was at basically the 30th floor in San Francisco, and he did come over one time and said he wanted to base jump off of my balcony, and I told him, no problem, just let me know. In the early days of the cannabis movement, Avery was a key figure at CARE in Oakland, helping patients access medicine at a time when it was still incredibly risky. Later, he made the bold and controversial decision to join Steve D'Angelo in opening Harborside. After Steve had long been a vendor at CARE, Avery's talent as a cultivator was unparalleled, and he introduced dispensaries to remarkable strains like Silver Star and Blue Dot, strains that became legendary in their own right. His Silver Star was fire. But Avery's heart went far beyond his work in cultivation. He used the proceeds from his success to build homes for those in need through Habitat for Humanity and always finding ways to give back. In 2009, Avery was arrested while bringing medicine to Harborside and another San Francisco dispensary. When the dispensary owners failed to stand by their vendors, Avery paid the ultimate price, serving 7 years in prison for his commitment to providing cannabis before legalization. After his release, Avery returned with resilience and determination. He worked alongside Patty O'Brien, a longtime friend, and his brother, Alden Battlehoop, to help physically build the dispensary Canna in Oakland, a retail space that carried on Patty's vision for compassionate care. Avery's heart of gold and his unwavering desire to provide free medicine to those in need made him a true pioneer and a champion of the people. And today we gather in sadness, but also in celebration of Avery's incredible contributions to the cannabis movement, his unwavering love for humanity, and his lasting impact on everyone who knew him. Avery's spirit, courage, and kindness will forever inspire us, and may he rest in peace, and may we honor his legacy by carrying forward the work and love he poured into the world. And so shout out to everyone that knew Avery. Much love, and we want to dedicate this show to the life of Avery and all the work that he did. And on that, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank yous to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do all this, and thank you to Cloud Media Partners, Adam in the Metaverse, taking care of all of our digital problems. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.